Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, welcome. My name is Tash. I hope you guys stick around for a bit and don't forget to click that bell for notifications for when I upload. Today's going to be a first impressions review of the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless foundation. I just want to see if this product is worth the hype, as everybody seems to rave about it here on YouTube. I've got mine in the shade 102 Fair Ivory, and let me just read you what it says on the back. So this says it's for normal to oily skin. Tend to be normal to dry in the autumn months, very dry in the winter months, and then I go in spring and summer. I tend to be like a combination where I get some flakes, normal skin, and then I get quite oily in the T-zone as well. So I'm definitely like a combination, but I personally like to try foundations for all sorts of skin types because sometimes you can be surprised about what works for you. So let's read the claims on the back. So it's supposed to mattify and refine pores with blurring micro powders for a poreless looking skin, hence the name matte and poreless. So if large pores are your concern, then this might be a product that's worth looking into. It's supposed to match skin tone and texture, and it gives a natural and seamless finish. Okay, so as per usual with my first impression foundations, I'm going to apply primer to one side of my face, leave the other side of my face without primer. I'm also going to start with a brush and then move on to my beauty blender, just to see how I prefer to apply the foundation. I know on the website it says to use your fingers, but I mean, I haven't used my fingers for like over 10 years now. So for the left side of my face, I'm going to be using the Real Techniques buffing brush. That's one of my favourite foundation brushes to use, and then I'm just going to be using the Professional by Benefit to prime. So this primer from Benefit is really good for blurring out pores, so that's why I like to prime one side of my face, and that just helps me to see whether a primer is going to help this foundation last longer on my skin, and then I like to leave the other side bare so that I can see how the foundation covers pores alone. So I have prepped my skin, I've cleansed, I've exfoliated, I've moisturised. I do feel a few like dry patches on my cheeks, but the rest feels quite normal. I also have blemishes, as you can see. They are getting more and more under control, but they're still there, so it'd be very interesting. It's mostly scarring, so it'd be very interesting to see how this covers. For some reason, I thought this was going to be quite a thick foundation, but it's actually quite a liquidy consistency. I think I expected it to be like the L'Oreal Infallible Total Cover, but I hope it covers better than that. To be honest, if you haven't seen that review, then I'll link it down in the description box below. So I can tell you immediately from using this brush that I do not like the application. It's definitely clinging on to some of the dry patches around my cheek area, so it's not applying very well. For the shade match, it actually looks really good. My neck and chest are like super pale. My face is definitely darker, so I always try and match to the neck and the chest. So we'll see how it goes when it gets down to the neck. I'm not loving that. Yeah, it's really sticking to my dry patches. I'm gonna swap over to my beauty blender and see how it performs with that. Yeah, already I can see that's much better. I know I sound like a fucking broken record when it comes to applying with my beauty blender, because I do prefer to apply most foundations with it. I just feel like it's really good if you have quite dry skin and you do have some flaky patches. I just feel like this really helps to push the product in. There are foundations that I prefer to use with a brush, believe it or not, but this is definitely working better with the beauty blender. You can still, I'll zoom you in when I've finished, but you can still see that slight dry patch there. I mean, that is where I've got like a new blemish there as well, so that's to be expected. So I imagine the primer has helped with this, but it definitely has blurred out my pores. I do like this in combination with that primer so far. It would be really interesting to see how the foundation works on its own though on the other side. So this is one layer. You can still see a few of my blemishes come through, but I would say this is a medium coverage. I bet you could build it up to a full coverage as well. So I'm going to apply my first layer, see how it looks, and then apply a second layer. So I'm quite impressed with how it's covering a lot of the redness in my skin as well, because I had quite a lot of redness around my nose area. I'm not going to be taking it up around my under eyes. I'm also not going to be setting this foundation as usual, because I don't always set my foundations unless they really do need it. So again, I would like to see how long this lasts without setting it. So that has applied so much better on the other side with that with the beauty blender. It's actually a really good coverage. I mean, if you can see the difference between, I know my dark circles are insane right now, but that's covered beautifully. with just one layer. It has actually done a really good job of blurring out the pores on this side as well. I would say it definitely looks more blurred this side with that primer, but it's done a pretty good job on its own as well. Sorry, I just need to put a headband on so I can get this hair out of my face. So it definitely is a matte finish, but I wouldn't say like it's like super powdery matte so far. I mean, I see what it looks like when it dries down. Let's zoom you guys in, so excuse my crazy dark circles. There we have the first layer. So it's not bad, I'd say it's medium coverage. I zoom you in a bit closer on the left side. This is where I started applying with a brush, and the product has definitely clung on to the flaky skin around that blemish there. So not so great, but this side with the beauty blender looks so much better. Right, let's go in with a second layer and see how this applies on top and whether you can layer it without it looking cakey, because that's always my worry with matte foundations. Okay, that's layering really nicely so far. It's definitely covered those blemishes on my cheek area really, really well. I'm actually really impressed so far. If this lasts well throughout the day, I'm going to be so happy. It's always great to find a cheap, like, drugstore alternative that matches your skin tone as well. I'm just really interested to see how it covers up here. So it's still peeking through slightly, but that's insane. The coverage is really good. I'm impressed with the coverage on this. Interestingly enough, the second layer has kind of helped to conceal some of that flakiness from the first layer with that brush. I mean, you can still see it. I mean, there's, especially around that blemish, there's definitely a bit where the product almost won't stick, but the flakiness kind of came up here as well, and that seems to have disappeared, so that's really nice. And it does seem to apply well over any of the texture on my skin. The colour match is actually pretty good. I still feel like it's a teeny little bit darker than my chest area, but nothing that you can tell. I mean, I blended it right down like I always do with my foundations to try and match that chest area. But I almost feel like that looks more like shadow than anything, so I'm good with that. Okay, let me zoom you guys in so you can see the second layer. Can you see that coverage? I mean, you got a couple of these big blemishes poking through. I mean, that one at the top is just really subtle now, but most of my redness has completely disappeared. I'm really, really impressed. Let me just give you an update on this side. So around this blemish here, I did find it was hard to get a second layer to stick to this after applying it with a brush, but I will say that the flakiness that I had here, it's still here, but it's really subtle now. I've kind of gone back over with the beauty blender. This side of my face, on the other hand, like, looks amazing. I'm really, really impressed. So far it's looking really good. I'm just going to do the transfer test. It still feels like it's drying a bit, so it might need some time. So it has transferred a little bit there. So it's definitely not a transfer proof foundation, but I don't think it does say that in the claim, so that's all good. But just know that this foundation at the moment will transfer. Once I finish the rest of my makeup and give this more of a chance to dry down, I'll see if that's still the case a bit later on. But yeah, I'm going to go finish the rest of my makeup and I'll be back to do a check-in just to let you know how other products have applied over the foundation. Okay, I'm back for my check-in. I didn't get to check in after I applied my other face products because my battery ran out. I also realised that I didn't show you guys the time when I'd finished putting this on, but I'm pretty sure it was around like 4:30 maybe, so it's now just coming to 7:30, so I've had it on for like nearly 3 hours and it's still looking really, really good. I'm a little bit flustered. Sam took me food shopping and it was really busy in the supermarket. I couldn't deal. He did get me the new Starbucks drink to calm me down. This is the caramel pecan. It's really, really nice. He's got pumpkin spice. I love the smell of pumpkin spice anything, but I don't really like the taste. But this caramel pecan is really, really good. Right, foundation update. I feel like the longer you wear this, the better it looks, which is quite rare for a foundation on me, so I'm not mad about it. I'm really, really impressed with it actually. It has rubbed off a little bit on my nose. I have had a bit of a runny nose though. I have been kind of wiping with tissue and whatever, so that's to be expected. But everywhere else looks really good. Even that bit where there's the dry patch, I mean, there's still a circle where the product wouldn't stick, but it's actually not as bad anymore. As for like applying products over this foundation, they went on beautifully. Like the foundation didn't move. As far as like the difference goes between the prime side and the non-prime side, I'm not seeing much difference at all, if I'm honest with you. If anything, I feel like the pores look less visible on the prime side, but then I did use the Porefessional, but they still don't look very visible on the unprimed side either. Like, this foundation does a really good job of blowing out your pores. But as far as longevity goes, like with the primer, I don't really see much difference. Like, I don't feel like it's faded that much on either side. Like, the only places I can see that it's faded is really the nose area where I've been wiping it with tissue. The forehead is looking really nice. It hasn't like sunk into any fine lines. I haven't really got any complaints about it. I think Sam thought it might have oxidized a little bit, which I can kind of, maybe it has a tiny bit, but it's nothing like so dramatic that it would bother me. If it went really orange, I would understand. But also, we're wearing yellow lighting. But now I look at it, I think maybe it has, just a tiny bit. I haven't touched up any of my makeup or anything, so I'm going to zoom you guys in so you can see how it looks so far. This is the side where I have that blemish. And I don't feel like it looks too dry and flaky now. And then here is the right unprimed side. So as far as activity goes, I did some cleaning downstairs, broke out a bit of a sweat. Sam took me food shopping. It was super busy, had a bit of an anxiety attack. And if you're wondering why I'm bothering to tell you that, I just want to say that the fact that this has lived through me kind of breaking out a bit of a sweat and also feeling really anxious and getting kind of clammy and feeling a bit nauseous, like, this foundation has lasted really well through all of that, and also it's stayed really nice and matte as well. The only place I would need to touch up is the nose, so I'm pretty impressed with how this has lasted. I feel like I wouldn't even need to powder it. The only reason I probably might want to powder it is because, actually, you know what, now it's dried down, it's not even that bad. There's a tiniest bit of transfer, nothing compared to how it was when I first applied it, but then it has had time to settle down and dry. I haven't gotten oily in my T-zone at all, like, it's kept that away. Just everything about it looks really, really nice. And when I asked Sam what it looked like, apart from the oxidation bit, he kind of mentions the same thing as I said to you guys earlier, is that it looks nice, it looks matte, it looks full coverage, but it doesn't look cakey. And that's something I really, really like about it, and it can be a really hard thing to get with foundation. So that is my update. I'm probably going to come back for one more update later on, probably in a few hours time, and we'll see how this holds up. Okay guys, final check-in. It is now 5 to 11, so I've been wearing this for approximately 6.5 hours. My final thoughts are I'm really impressed with this foundation. I will zoom you guys in so you can see how it looks 6.5 hours after application. I will say my nose looks a bit flaky and patchy. That's because I've been wearing glasses to watch TV. Other than that, it's still looking pretty good. I feel like it's starting to look a little bit cakey, probably breaking up a little, but nothing crazy at all. And for 6.5 hours, I feel like that's pretty good going, especially as I've been kind of busy cleaning and I've gone out as well. It's not like I've just sat around in the house. So final thoughts first on the non-primed versus the prime side. I honestly don't see a difference, but if you're somebody who absolutely needs a primer, then definitely just go ahead and continue with the primer in your routine. I don't always need a primer because my skin can get quite dry, but for first impressions, this foundation definitely gets my approval. I can see why it's extremely hyped up here on YouTube, and yeah, I'm glad it really works. As for oxidization, I don't feel like the colours change that much anymore. Yeah, I've got nothing bad to say about it. I'm really impressed. So let's do a final close-up. So you guys might be able to tell here it's gone a little bit patchy and rubbed off, but that's because I've been wearing glasses. Looking at a viewfinder here, I feel like this side is looking pretty damn good. This is the unprimed side. So there we have it guys. For now, the Maybelline Fit Me gets my seal of approval. If I notice any changes, or if I feel like this is a foundation that's not going to work for me in the winter months when my skin is a lot drier, then I will definitely update you. But for now, I've got nothing bad to say about this foundation. Anyway guys, it is time to get this makeup off my face, bring this video to an end, and I will see you in my next video. And if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. And if you want notifications whenever I upload, then click that bell. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you soon.